Stable, secure energy is something that we need in order to thrive and be prosperous in the future.
Long duration storage, some people even say we found the holy grail. This is what we need to really help power homes and different areas, because this is the piece that makes everything work around the clock. We think about storage in our phones and storage in our computers, and when it taps out, we need to recharge it. Well, the great thing about long duration energy storage is we get to bring this storage to life and keep it going for days, weeks, and years. Intense storm that comes and knocks our power lines down, we are able to hold that maybe renewable energy we captured weeks before and then use it to provide services. Modernizing does take some expensive upfront costs, but then it's a huge savings a few years later that can last for 20, 30, 50 years. I think that's another thing about long duration storage is these are very long-lived assets.
Of the states that are really kind of killing it right now when it comes to this, which ones are ahead of the game and which ones are woefully behind?
I think what's really interesting is that
energy is both a national security issue as well as a personal one. Today we're speaking with Julia Souder. She's the CEO of the Long Duration Energy Storage Association. It's a worldwide organization that is helping to bring more sustainable, more reliable energy to communities across the world. It's all about prosperity. Julia, welcome to Population Next. As you know, there is a growing concern with Americans today about the cost of living. And while many people are really fixated on the cost of things like groceries, the cost of energy is really going up too. And it's not just in certain states, it's the cost plus the amount of hours of energy that we actually have to use. Can you give us a sense of what really is going on with this demand and whether we're going to see any type of lightening of the load in the coming years?
Well, Bradley, thank you so much for asking me to be here. I'm thrilled and excited to talk about how energy is a lifeblood of cities around the world and communities. And the cost of living is going up, and the cost of energy, whether you're powering electricity, powering heat, or cooling, we need to see how we can really bring savings to our customers. And how we are doing this is that we're providing flexibility with storage. We think about storage in our phones and storage in our computers, and when it taps out, we need to recharge it. Well, the great thing about long duration energy storage is we get to bring this storage to life and keep it going for days, weeks, and years. So now we have a new tool that we can use to help us bring down costs, because we can capture excess energy when we're not using it and use it when we need it, especially if we have an intense storm that comes and knocks our power lines down. We are able to hold that maybe renewable energy we captured weeks before and then use it to provide services. So we have tools now today that are accessible that we can lower costs by providing that around the clock heating, power, and cooling. So what's exciting is that costs can come down and the lifeblood of cities can use this hidden infrastructure that hasn't been really well known to keep cities moving.
Right. So Julie, give us a sense, just for the listeners to give them a baseline of how energy historically has been delivered versus what storage might be doing for the future.
True. So it goes back 100 years with the debate between Tesla and Nikola and Westinghouse about how to charge a light bulb and keep this power going. And we used to, even before then, use coal and gas to heat our homes. Well, when we had the invention of electricity, we were able to move this power instantaneously across wires. In today's world, we use whether it's gas plants, coal plants, and renewable solar and wind to capture that generation and then push it to where the demand is, to where the giant sucking sound is of customers needing energy, whether it's in industry, whether it's data centers, whether it's our own homes and communities. But this power has to move constantly and oscillates ups and down. And when you have something stop giving generation, like if you have the wind stop blowing or the solar stop shining, then you need to have that gap filled so that you don't have a blackout. Because when you don't have power, you don't have any electricity and the grid fails. So what's exciting is that long duration storage can take this excess power and heat and hold it so that when you have this ups and downs, you can have that constant flow of power, electricity that provides that heating or cooling that you need for your homes, for your businesses, and for your communities. So what's great is that this new world provides you the opportunity to have, again, that reliable source that comes at you, in a variety of ways. But we have storage now to give you that flexibility you need for the variety of weather or other aspects that come online.
So treat me as an idiot here, and let me ask this question. Are we really just talking about big batteries at the end of the day?
Giant batteries, but giant batteries that don't have to be huge in scale or size, they're more in intensity of duration. So
Okay.
even something that you can have small scale or underneath the ground, above the ground, or just in containers can again hold power for 100 hours, for months, and for days and years. It just depends on what you need. But yes, a giant battery made up of a variety of materials, very low cost, which is also part of the savings. So whether it's rocks, salts, bricks, recycled aluminum, cement, whether it's flow batteries, air batteries, metal batteries. I'm using very environmentally friendly minerals like zinc, vanadium, iron. Whether it's, you've got also, different kinds of calcium, magnesium, organic batteries. I mean, there's a whole option of what you're able to use in addition to lithium.
So, Julia, recently the Secretary of the Interior said that we really don't have an energy problem. I'm paraphrasing, of course, what he said. But the inclination, I think, of his comments was that most of our cost is driven by regulatory constraints. And he noted the fact that people pay higher prices in the Northeast, where there is I would say, a stricter regulatory framework. How much truth is there to this statement? And are regulations getting in the way of Americans consuming affordable energy?
I think it's all relative. It's always a matter of the eye of the beholder. I think what's really interesting is that we have so much opportunity and wealth in this country to really use a diverse set of energy resources at our hands. Yes, there are some regulatory areas that can constrict or refine some of the access points, but when we broaden our markets, we're able to bring more opportunity to fruition. For example, in the New England, there's limited access to natural gas. And so the markets are now promoting more renewable energy, wind, whether it's on or offshore wind, solar, and now long duration energy storage to make sure that when they capture those excess resources, they can use it all the time. And they can use it for congestion when, imagine a highway getting just so full of cars, you can't move anything. Well, that happens to the grid sometimes, especially New England when it's very confined areas. Long duration storage can come open up these areas and give more flexibility so you can move those cars, electricity around, the heat and power. So it's really making sure that you have access to these additional tools. And I think that's one of the unsung heroes of long duration storage is that not many people know the value it brings. And they're still unfamiliar because it's been something that's been around. Pumped hydro that has used water to create, through turbines to create electricity. You can pump that water back up when you don't need, there's not a huge demand, and reuse it again and again and again. And that's been going on for 100 years. But you can't have that in every area of the country. So in parts of the South and parts of the Northwest, you have pumped hydro providing that constant power. In other areas, you can bring in new resources like long duration storage, where you can use compressed air, for taverns underground, or containers that can just give batteries, 12 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, that continuity we need. So there are resources available. There are some market constrictions, but I think that's why we're really working hard with policymakers around the US and around the world to update the market policies so you can get the benefits and the savings of long duration storage.
So you've highlighted the fact that there is, or are rather, diverse energy sources and diverse energy needs across the country. It raises a question for me about whether or not a national energy policy is really possible these days, considering the great diversity of the nation and the great size of it. So are you suggesting that we create more regional policies or state-based policies, or is it all part of a larger framework or environment for energy in the United States?
You need both. I think it's more about timing of how you get to one or the other. If you look at other examples around the world, in Europe, they have the European Union, which sets policies for the whole continent, and then you have each state take their their individual needs and then address the policies of how they need to make fit for their local customers. So there is a balancing approach. And they are moving forward on a much more progressive grid that is being much more supportive of different types of resources, including long duration storage. Australia, same thing. It's that federal and state policy is also pushing forward a market that provides the signals to investors to build manufacturing in local economies. So it is this kind of balancing act of both state and federal. And if one slows down before the other, there's nothing holding back states in the United States to say this is important to us. We want to lower costs. We want to bring in resiliency, security, and reliability. Then they are triggering that how important the signal is to have long duration energy storage. And we're seeing this in certain areas with various mandates, and we're seeing this in states with various call outs for regulatory changes, where we're seeing more markets ask for additional avenues for resource adequacy, which is making sure you pay for any uncertainty that comes forward. So there are market signals, but there needs to be more. And I think if the federal and state governments worked on a succinct plan, like kind of what they did for various outreach in previous administrations for security, this could be a huge momentum to push things forward.
So energy is really a security issue, maybe even a national or state security issue, but it also has to be an individual security issue as well. So what are you suggesting for individuals, especially around long duration energy storage? We know about, for example, the Tesla batteries that you can get in your home. Is that the future where we're effectively becoming more individualistic in our energy creation and structure that we build into our own home? And is that really feasible for most people?
Oof, great question, Riley, because we want to support our homes, our communities, but we also want to be connected to the broader system for that extra reliability and that security. And so we need both the broader system to give us the power from various areas around the world, around the US, but we also need what's in our backyards. So there are new technologies that you can buy for your home and community, for your building, for your industry, for your business. But some of them are more expensive than the others. So this is where the government can step in and help with grants or community contributions or contracts. So yes, we want our own protection, but I think it's also we've got to make sure we're relying on the broader infrastructure. We have to make sure the infrastructure is not becoming outdated. We need to modernize it. And modernizing does take some expensive upfront costs, but then it's a huge savings, a few years later that can last for 20, 30, 50 years. I think that's another thing about long duration storage is these are very long lived assets. These are not something you're going to need for 5 years. These are 20, 50, years that are going to provide you this value add over and over again. And we don't have, a lot of individual long duration storage for your house, but it could be if the right market signals were there. And we have more of the data centers and more of the industrial customers buying long duration storage to help with their low costs and emissions reductions than you have, kind of in the house. As soon as the market shows up that there's investment opportunity, then you'll see a variety of additional companies come to fruition that help strengthen local communities.
Make sure I'm not mistaken here. Government often acts as that kind of catalyst for change, right?
Definitely.
So
it's been working in New York, California, Texas, Michigan. I mean, I could keep going down the list.
You got to my next question. Of the states that are really kind of killing it right now when it comes to this, which ones are ahead of the game and which ones are woefully behind?
So what's interesting is that California was one of the first states to ever introduce a long duration energy storage need, a target, a mandate. And it was, really kind of helped set the signal that, we need to have this. We know it's coming. Then New York followed suit, and then you had many other states come up in line. This then triggered global kind of following because other countries realized, wait a second, this is making a difference. We want to not be left behind. We want to jump on this as well to get the benefits for our customers. And so you've seen this now expand to Europe, Australia, India. You're seeing this in Latin America. You're seeing this in East Asia. And so this global marketplace is also helping lower costs because the need is in every community. I mean, every single person around the world needs some type of storage if they have access to electricity. In Africa, it's even as they're leapfrogging technologies and really trying to bridge in communities being powered so that a lot of the local groups can have their cell phones and have different access points. This is really providing a value add. So getting the right signals out there is really important. And this is what we're doing for policy impact, in the council where we bring our members together to really highlight the role of important policies to give the right signals, to then have the right investment that then can really provide the value to the customers.
Now, you mentioned Africa, and I think it's a really interesting test case for a lot of technologies these days because it was so behind for so long. And now it does seem to be leapfrogging in all of these different areas. But energy, something that we take for granted, I think, for the most part here in the West, is not as stable as we'd like to believe. Where in Africa is just kind of moving the needle in a way that we should really be paying attention to?
It's really interesting to look at South Africa, where they've been having rolling blackouts all last year with just the increase of solar coming online and the slowing down of coal plant generation because of the emissions and the health aspects. So there was a lot of local communities brought on their solar rooftops where they could afford it. And then there was the government also helping for different communities to have additional solar brought on. That costs money, and so it also kind of brought in what is the savings trade-off. What was very exciting to see was that then many, like the African Development Bank and the World Bank, stepped in to help also the local utility Eskom, then help build bridges so that not only the wealthy got benefits, but that all different communities got benefits from bringing solar online for the health aspects and then for grid stability. And so it's transitioned a lot. They've done a reconfiguration of the utility themselves and also just kind of had, again, this public-private partnership, which has been essential. It also took a lot of the customers asking for certain things that helped the government and the utility give the kind of foundational strength to make the changes. It wasn't just a change made, in left field. It was a change made, okay, our customers are asking for this, they're demanding this, and we need to find these other resources to make this happen. When you are able to bring in long duration energy storage, you're able to get $540 billion a year in savings when you get this, deployment around the world. And this is great to see South Africa, Kenya, a lot of the electric vehicles charging and using long duration storage to help keep the flexibility. So it's not just a huge increase of demand and a low decrease of not having enough power. We can keep that constant so that you don't have the shocks that you can have to the system, which raises price. Nigeria is doing a lot of work with community centers, hospitals. You're seeing a lot of hospitals use, instead of backup diesel generators, you're seeing them use long duration storage and solar to keep that 24/7 power going for operations. Now you're seeing this in island nations around the world that are hit constantly with various storms throughout the year, so that they have this continuity of power, that they have low costs, that they can have that renewable energy 24/7. So long duration storage can, as I mentioned earlier, be in every single community around the world, providing a variety of values to really bring what the customers want and what the people want in the communities, like low cost, affordable, secure, reliable power, heat, and cooling.
And which nation is really leading in the development of these things? I mean, actually building the long duration energy storage, because I would imagine there are quite a few at this point because it is a new area, but is there one that really stands out?
It's interesting. I'd say the race is on. I think there's not one country that is really kind of leapt ahead of the others. I think what you're seeing is that you have long duration storage growing in the United States, but also kind of it's like a stop stall because of various policies. So you see Europe, with higher gas prices, being able to introduce market mechanisms. So long duration storage, the power to power, the power to heat really move forward. We have long duration storage that's provided today, that's providing heat to Lay's and PepsiCo and fertilizer companies that are actually lowering their costs, and that gives savings to customers. And it had been deployed for years. I think this is because the market signals have really provided that certainty. Australia is really moving forward with deploying more projects. They have a lot of renewable energy, and they're moving off coal plants very quickly, so they need to fill in the gaps. And then you're seeing Europe with the flexibility, and because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis and ongoing war that's happening, you've got to be able to have access to other resources. And so Europe has done a huge pivot and will continue to, and they really need this flexible component that long duration storage provides. So that, and then we're seeing more work in Canada, and then Brazil, because they were kind of caught off guard with great planning and operations, but they had so much solar come online, both rooftop and kind of utility scale, that they had to have curtailment. So they had to cut all this excess solar, and then they learned from Chile and from Italy, from Spain, Australia. I mean, many other countries have had to deal with this. It's not new, but you lose billions and billions of pounds, euros, yen, pesos if you don't capture that waste energy that is just lost. And if you capture it and hold it, use long duration storage, then you can use it when you need it and you have that savings. So I think that really kind of helped change policy in Brazil so that they realize they need storage and they need policies to help really encourage building of these different types of giant batteries and the different types of technologies, including hydrogen as well to hold this. I think this is not something that's anti-oil and gas. It's more like, look, there's a transition happening around the world and it is real, and that this is something that we need to have a variety of resources, and solar is the cheapest generation there is. And so why not just look at the economics of how you have renewables and long duration storage provide immense value, but you also have an existing grid that has a lot of fossil fuels, traditional energy, and long duration storage can help really offset some of these costs and really help with congestion to again provide savings. So we have the assets to really help bring benefits to customers. It's really making sure that we have the opportunities to bring these technologies and solutions to the marketplace and also just to customers.
Right. And I get that the price is going to come down because we can hold it and store it. It's like shelf-stable foods, if there's an analogy.
Great analogy.
The price comes down if you can hold it for a longer period of time. But let's talk quickly about the demand side, because we know demand for energy is going through the roof right now, especially as it relates to the proliferation of data centers really everywhere on the planet right now. Will the cost savings be offset by the increase in demand? And it's not just the data centers, right? It's also the fact that we're dealing with more heat waves for longer durations, a really big shift in the weather patterns worldwide that is causing people to use more energy too. So are we really going to see savings, or is it still going to increase because we've got all of this demand coming at the same time?
It's a tricky question, and I think
it's intended to be.
I mean, if we plan this right, we could definitely cover all of our bases and make sure that we've looked at every scenario and all these aspects. We as humans are not the best planners, and so we have some amazing individuals who this is their job, but are they integrated in all the other aspects of decision making? And I think that's where we're looking at this, is that we know there's growing demand. We know that there's going to be peaks, ups, and downs. So why aren't we really kind of incentivizing long duration storage to help make this a plateau and a level playing field? And I think that's the biggest question, is why doesn't long duration storage become more of these conversations? If it was, then it would actually help break down costs. But we need to be not just at the table, but having policies change so the impact of long duration storage can really be part of the solution. So yes, bring the planners to the table, bring the financiers, the investors to the table, bring all the eldest technology solutions that are available, because we have, if you look at them, hundreds of them in a variety of different portfolios that you can really provide. And then, help us bring the customers, bring them benefits by having different components, whether it's having access to a market or just better contracts would be great. I think if we incentivized even some more of the data centers to get benefits from having more long duration storage, they would. I think it's really just kind of showing that a known pathway to really incorporate long duration storage is feasible. And when you do, there are benefits. We just have to make it as clear as possible. And that's where, as you mentioned earlier, working with state and federal policymakers makes this so much easier.
Now, I want to talk about the consumer real quick before we close out. The consumer obviously plays a big role in this, or should play a big role in this. If you were to give, the average Joe customer today or Jane customer today, some marching orders, some advice on what they should do to bring long duration energy storage to their community, what would you tell them? Like, why do they need it? And what should they do to affect change within their community?
That's a great question. I think you need it because it's the infrastructure that brings prosperity. I mean, this is the infrastructure that really does help create stability. and really also, helps lower bills because you have the affordability, the resiliency, and that this connects everyone together. I like to see LDES as like the connective tissue, or not just the backbone that brings things together, but just like the heartbeat of really what is so tangible. So why do communities need to ask for this kind of like this bloodline that really helps with prosperity and security? Is because it is the missing link. Long duration storage is, some people even say, we found the holy grail. This is the what we need to really help power the homes and different areas, because this is the piece that makes everything work around the clock. This is what helps bring us the fills in the gaps, gives us that stability. And long duration storage really is kind of the really kind of the end of the day. It just means that it's possible because everyone's asking for it, because it creates that demand, which creates cost savings, prosperity, and resiliency. So every community can have long duration storage that will really give the benefits that they're all looking for. So it's almost kind of like the, behind the curtain of Oz, the veil's been dropped. Here's LDES ready to show up and be of value.
Well, Julia, I think that you've given us three things here for our customers that they really need to understand. This is about prosperity, solvency, and stability more than anything else. So with that, I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much for your insights and a great conversation.
And thank you, Bradley. It was a lot of fun.
Stable, secure energy is something that we need in order to thrive and be prosperous in the future. That's why this conversation with Julia was so interesting today. Now, I've included quite a few things from Julia in the show notes today to help get you more educated about what long duration energy storage is, but more importantly, what you can do in your community to make these projects come to life. As always, you can follow me here. Please subscribe if you can. And if you want, pick up my Substack. It's at populationnext.com. That's populationnext.com.